We have a treat for you today. Poison drummer Rikki Rockett joins us to talk about his new band, the Rockett Mafia. And we get into the weeds a little bit with some other personal stuff and what is ahead, hopefully, for Poison in 2026 as they celebrate their 40th anniversary. It's the Music Universe podcast.
Buddy, are you still glowing?
Yes. I mean, I can't help it. When I get to talk to a drummer, and I've listened, especially one I've listened to for 20 something years, because, I hate to admit this, but I will. Poison wasn't, I was into the 80s. I don't like using the term hair metal either, but that's how most people describe it these days. I was into that style, but Poison and Warrant and Cinderella and all them weren't the bands I was really into growing up. It was Bon Jovi and stuff, mostly. And then, the punker rock with like U2 and some other hard rock. So when I was in high school and I was playing in a cover band and we did Every Rose Has Its Thorn, I'm like, I got to go check these guys out. So I did. And so Ricky's been a huge influence on my drumming in the last 20 something years. So it was a joy to get to chat with him finally, as we've been trying to get him on. Got a great new band called the Rockett Mafia, which he, I guess you could say fronts, but obviously he's a drummer. He founded it. And we didn't get to talk about this because we talked about other things, but they recently played their first gig at the famous Whiskey A Go Go on the Sunset Strip. And they have several tour dates in July announced. And I believe the RockettMafia.com is their website. And of course, you can follow Rikki on social media at Rikki Rockett. And he shares all that. And Matt, I know you've seen Poison once on the stadium tour. I've seen him many times, and you've been watching his vlog, which we discussed. He's got so much that we didn't get to.
One thing I didn't get to tell him was I've seen his tour bus, and the reason I know I've seen his tour bus, and this, is in 22. When you play Citizens Bank Park, and first of all, the stadium tour was so massive that you had to have offsite logistics. There was Bus World that you actually pass by to get to the gates. We passed by. There's a casino in the complex, and we left the casino and we passed it. And actually, we think we saw somebody in a golf cart. I don't know who it was. Wasn't Rikki, but we saw his bus because his bus was the only one with a trailer behind it because he was touring with the motorcycle. So on the days off or whatever, because it was a bus routed tour.
Right.
So on the days off or whatever, he was on the motorcycle, and I'm thinking, how are you insurable if you are going to ride your motorcycle? But then, if Neil Peart can do it, Rikki Rockett can do it.
I was about to say he was notorious for riding his motorcycle from gig to gig and just exploring the town. But Rikki also, something we didn't get into was he kind of, I wouldn't say a ghost hunter, but he goes out and seeks different haunted areas.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Stuff like that. He's got a channel about that. Yeah. So if we get him back, hopefully, and we'll discuss that at the end of the interview, hopefully we'll be able to talk more about that since we were able to talk about these things. So he just has such a huge interest area that we just were able to barely touch it, but I think you're going to really enjoy this because Rikki really talks about the Rockett Mafia and about Poison, and some cool stuff I think we dig into here, right here on the Music Universe.
Rikki Rockett, legendary drummer for Poison, now starting his own band, the Rockett Mafia. Rikki, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you so much. How are you?
We're great. So tell me, this Rockett Mafia, tell me the genesis of putting it together.
I'm a city co-host for a motorcycle ride every year called the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. And it's a worldwide ride, and I'd love to talk about that more. But they never had entertainment at the Los Angeles one. And they're like, hey, why don't you do something? And I'm like, what do I do? Just go out and do a solo? I mean, And I thought to myself, well, maybe I can put a little something together, do a bunch of cover songs and see how that goes. Just have fun, have people enjoy, the day. And so I did. I put it together, and I just used the players from Shetty Metal and because I had done a fill in for them, and I got Brandon from Devil City Angels, who we've been friends forever, and I just called up the Rocket Mafia, and we did that one-off show, and I thought to myself, this is pretty cool. Like this could be a fun thing to just do cover songs, enjoy some of the stuff that I loved growing up with, and just have a great time with it. Maybe reinvent a few little things. And then Brandon mentioned to me after looking at a poll about Poison, where people were saying, "Oh man, I wish Poison would do more of these deep cuts." And I just know we're not going to do more of these deep cuts. So guess what? I will.
Love it.
So we're going to add some of that in too. So um,
Awesome.
it's yeah. So it's been one of those things, and now that I'm working with Mick, and Brandon's a really good songwriter. We're thinking maybe we should write some stuff too, and record it and put it out here and there, and just see where it takes us.
Oh yeah, and now I have to ask, when you say Poison deep cuts, are you talking, some of maybe, Crack a Smile, which has celebrated a milestone. That's a great album, by the way. I remember being in high school and getting that was my first Poison album. And then I got the greatest hits, and I'm like, what have I been missing all these years? Because I was like 20 years after,
Yeah.
after you guys were established. And there's some great songs on that Crack a Smile album, and it does not get enough love, I believe. And it's a great blues rock album.
Thank you so much. You know what's funny too is Dwayne Barron, the guy that was the engineer,
Mhm.
co-producer on that record. He also was the engineer on Open Up and Say Ah. That's how we met.
Mm.
So him and John Purdell produced that record. He just reached out to me literally 2 days ago. I haven't heard from him forever, and said, "Is there any way that thing went 2 times platinum? Is there any way I could get a platinum record for my wall?" And I haven't had one of those things made in 20 years. I mean, so I told him I'd look into it. So that's kind of crazy you'd say that and Dwayne's a great engineer, super, super good guy. I mean, I would have him in a New York minute do a record for me again.
Oh my God. Some of those, I mean, just the mix on that. And then my daughter's going to be 15 and she loves some of those songs on there too. And I'll put on that album, and just the blues drumming that you do in the 6/8 on some of those is just like, I play along to it. I'm like, man, it's just so very cathartic for me. Just love
Thank
hearing
you. Right on. Thank you so much.
it.
I appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
So, and I have to say, just off the back of that, because I've watched your vlog after I saw the stadium tour, and I can just tell. Number one, I know you love motorcycles, and number two, you genuinely love drumming. And I don't. I know you get to a certain level, like what you're at. Sometimes it's okay. Go do the show, rehearse the show, and then put it away and come back to it when it's showtime. I can tell you genuinely love doing it, and that this project is a labor of love for you. So talk about deciding what covers that you kind of get to explore from the perspective of a drummer who, as you say, grew up loving it.
Well, I mean, gosh, well, I'm only like I swear I could probably put about 10 different sets together of cover songs that I love. But I'm trying to choose things that most other people from my genre that put these kinds of things together don't do. Something a little bit different. That's
Sure.
why we picked I Think I Love You by the Partridge Family. Like that's a really well-written song with guys like Hal Blaine to play drums and all that stuff on there, but to bring it into today's sound and kind of keep the essence of it at the same time was challenging. And so that was something that I just really, really wanted to try to pull off. And I think we did. I think we did. And I want to do more of those kind of things, uh, try to pull off those it's almost like rewriting a song in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
You know,
Right.
you feel like you're reproducing the song and just reimagining it, and that's a lot of fun to do. I enjoyed it. We kind of did that on the Poisoned record a little bit,
Sure.
but
Mhm.
I had my ideas of certain things, and but we're a band, so we had to kind of work out all the ideas. With this, I can kind of control the narrative a little more. So, and I do want the guys to weigh in. I don't want them playing songs they're miserable playing,
Right.
of course.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it was very interesting to hear. Like, I'm not old enough to know. I mean, I know the Partridge Family, but not old enough to really have watched them. So when I heard you mention in a previous interview that I Think I Love You was a Partridge Family song, I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. A very unique take on taking a song like that most people probably maybe forgot about from that era, and now you're kind of modernizing it.
yeah, I mean, look, Partridge Family, fake band. Okay. David
Right.
Cassidy, real player, real
Yeah.
musician, actually very good. Didn't get any respect because of the fake Partridge Family band, but it was a TV show. You just get in the car and you're in for the ride, you don't take it seriously, right? Unless yeah, we all love Lori Partridge, right? But, um, but I mean, it was a fun TV show, and they had real writers write real good songs for those things. And they did it with the Brady Bunch and all that stuff. It's just 70s fun. And it was so by the time we were done with that, Mick looked over at me and goes, "This is kind of like demonic sugar pop." I'm like, yes, we've taken it, we've defiled it.
I love it.
That's kind of what it's like doing. It's like defiling, something innocent. Yeah, yeah. You feel dirty. You feel kind of dirty.
That's
No,
great.
that's wonderful. And you mentioned originals. I assume that's just early talks. But what direction do you think the band will take, genre wise, sonically, if and when you do decide to play around with some creations of your own in this musical laboratory that you're creating?
Well, I think it will sound. I think. You know, I don't think it's going to sound 80s ish. Really,
Sure.
I think we're all sort of 70s influenced. You know what I mean? So I think it'll be more along that line. And it might sound a little bit like that Partridge Family cover we did. I don't think it'll be the same kind of song structure, but
Right.
sonically, it'll probably sound like that.
So talk to me about your involvement in motorcycles in this run where this happened. How'd you get involved with it? Obviously, you're a big motorcycle guy, but you said you want to talk a little bit more about it. So go ahead, tell us a little bit more about your
Oh,
involvement.
cool. Yeah, so the Distinguished Gentleman Ride is a ride it's worldwide. It happens in like 300 cities across the world, bunch of different countries. It started in Sydney, Australia, and it's for to raise awareness for men's health, mental health, and prostate cancer and stuff like that. And basically, you dress dapper. So for one day, you dress up and ride a motorcycle. So and it's a slow ride. It's not a big, fast ride. It's almost like a parade.
Oh, cool.
You get as many people together and you get a sponsor. Every person gets a sponsor and people can donate to it. So we start sponsorship Monday, I think it is. So, sponsor me, and I'll do the ride. And, people all over. And, like last year, we came like this close to beating New York. I think they beat us out by just a little bit. But it's usually New York, Sydney, Australia, and Los Angeles kind of have the biggest, donations. But we have all kinds of, Triumph is involved this year, and a lot of big players, a lot of big sponsors. So we're super, super excited about it. And it's so much work. I can't even tell you how much work it is. I never realized fundraisers were so involved.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, we're just kind of like, oh my God, it's over. But let's start talking about next year. It's one of those things.
Never ends. Never
Where
ends.
can people go and sponsor you?
Distinguishedgentleman'sride.com. And I will do a link on as soon as we haven't started the sponsorships yet. I think it's Monday. And I'll put a link on my Facebook page
Okay,
and
and then
probably
we'll
on my Instagram page too.
Okay, yeah, this will air probably next Friday, so we'll link to it at that point
Okay,
too,
great.
since it'll be up. And I want to congratulate you on being several years cancer free. How are you with that progress?
9 years, I think it is now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So yeah, it is. It's kind of miraculous, honestly. I mean, I was ready to not cash in my chips. I never gave up, but at one point there was kind of no hope of saving my tongue. And they literally wanted to cut my tongue out because they didn't know what else to do. Nothing was
Mm,
working.
Oh my gosh.
And that's when we tried the immunotherapy clinical trial down at Moores Cancer Center in San Diego. Dr. Ezra Cohen headed that up, and it was amazing. Like within 9 weeks, I was 90% clear. And a few weeks later, I was completely cured. They didn't call it a cure right away until you hit 5 years. And so, yeah, it's gone. It's gone. And I've never had to look back at it. I mean, I do,
right.
of course. And there's side effects. I get dry. I don't swallow as well. I cough on stuff. And I have my carotid arteries damaged. I got to keep an eye on that from the radiation. I mean, there's stuff, but but the other side effect was I have this reverence for life. So that's the good side effect.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how has that changed your life? Like, are you living a different type of lifestyle since you've been cured, or are you able to just continue what, how, you eating differently, drinking differently, things like that, or has that ever been something that really kind of affected it?
Well, I've been vegetarian for like 30 years, so that, eating wasn't different for me too much, except during the time of treatment. I was on a liquid diet. I mean, I couldn't eat. It
Mm,
was
Yeah.
terrible. It was hard even drinking. Like to
Yeah.
make a shake, I had to like thin it. Like if I went to like a juice place, I couldn't even drink the stuff they had because I was like, it's too thick. Like, can you cut that in half?
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so when I was able to, and I lost like, I think 20% of my weight, of my body weight, like I looked bad. I
Wow.
looked bad. I just could not keep the weight on. I was pounding everything I could as much as I could. Yeah, it's a rough one to go through. I don't recommend it to anybody.
No. Well,
uh,
yeah, glad to hear you're beyond that, and hopefully you continue to stay in good health, because it's I lost my dad 7 years ago to, or 8 years ago now, to mesothelioma, and it just kind of,
oh, right. Lung cancer,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, kind of just comes up on you, and you don't necessarily realize you have it. But glad to hear you're doing well with that. Um, and also, you're bit almost by another tragedy, the LA fires. I want to see how you're doing there. I know you're supposed to be inducted into the Metal Hall of Fame the same night that
Yes.
happened. How's that going for you?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was like, seriously, I was simultaneously getting ready to go to to Anaheim for the Hall of Fame, packing one bag to evacuate and packing one bag to go to Anaheim, not sure what's going to happen. And then it got to where you could barely see your hand in front of your face.
Oh,
The
geez.
smoke was so bad. And
Wow.
that's when my wife said, we're out of here. And so we
Wow.
just started heading north. And we got almost to Santa Barbara before we could find a hotel room. And everybody was going that way. I saw cars ramming into each other, trying to get around slam. I mean, that it was pretty crazy. But I have a police officer friend who called me and he said, hey, I was just by your house. It looks great. Everything's fine. Nothing jumped the freeway. It's a lot of smoke. You don't want to be here right now. But I think in the next 24 hours, you'll probably be okay. So we waited about 24, 32 hours and came back, and it didn't smell very good, but we were good. Just aired everything out, and we've been good ever since. So we're very
Oh, good.
lucky.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Really. That's awesome. That's amazing. I mean, uh, you know who had a similar story? I don't know if you know him well. Lukather, Steve Lukather. Same
Oh
thing.
yeah, he went through it, man. That guy.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't from Toto. He didn't. It didn't jump. It turned like at the last possible second that it could turn. he told me, and he's been okay. So a lot of people in this situation, like what you went through. So
It's like God's wind came down and went, nope, not this house.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost like a hit or miss thing. I'm in Bakersfield and I had people texting me. I'm like, I'm 100 miles from it. I'm pretty sure I'm good. I have no
yeah,
need to go to LA and deal with any events because they all were canceled anyway. And
Yeah, yeah.
let them do their thing, and we'll get back to it. But I've been watching your vlogs and stuff. And I'm like, I hope he's okay because I know you're not too far down the
Yeah,
highway
no, we're
there.
good. Yeah, we're good. We were gone 2 days and with the animals and all that,
well,
and we're
good,
back. So yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So back to the cheery subject of the music. Before we let you go, we can't let you go without talking about Poison. And 2026, I know Brett's been saying this year he's doing minimal dates, but that next year Gang is going to get back together. Do you have anything that you can share about Poison coming together in 26?
You know what? We're in talks right now about that.
Oh,
This
great.
week has been the week that we're starting to plan that possibility. I think we should do it. I did a interview earlier today, and I said it then, I'll say it now. I could tour 9 months out of the year, every
Yeah,
year. Like it doesn't touring. I love as long as I can see my family, I'm good. Especially the way Poison tours, it's great. It's a great experience. You get to know people out there in
yeah,
all these territories. You get to know the people that you do security at the buildings. You get to know the people that supply the food and all this stuff, and then fans that you see every year, and it's like this family reunion anymore. And I used to
yeah,
hear older bands talk about that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Now I know, I get it. Even some of the hotels, you go like, hey, you were at the front desk the last year I was here. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
welcome back. And
Right.
so, yeah, it's pretty cool. So when somebody said one time, they said, you go down the same steps you went up. It's so true. You run into so many of the same people. I have a book coming out in July 15th, supposedly. Um, so get the book because I talk about all these um, poignant life experiences that I've had that people might find interesting from through my lens of being a drummer in a famous rock band.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where I come from on that for the most part. I try to not have a bunch of. I told the guys that I was working with, I'm like, let's not have a million. Well, he was born in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Blah blah blah. People only want to hear a little bit of that. They want to get to the meat of it. You know what I mean? So let's get there.
Mhm.
So I think it does. I think it's paced really well.
yeah.
Do you have a title for it already that you can share?
Yeah, it's called Ghost Notes.
I love that. I love that. And you're
That's
you're famous.
awesome.
You're famous for the ghost notes. I don't think you get enough credit for that, but I hear
You're
them all the
right.
time.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yes, because you know, the first few albums were all obviously made in the 80s, and producers did not want ghost notes. They wanted boom bap boom bap. They just
Yeah.
it was frowned upon. They wanted you to lean in as hard and heavy as you could. Not very fluid fills were frowned upon. It,
Mhm.
it was more, and so I wasn't able to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do on those records. When I was able to stretch out was Native Tongue. Things started to change, and then Crack a Smile. Those guys let me do pretty much what I wanted to do, within the context of the song.
Right.
So that's when I felt like I was able to really play the way I wanted to play. You know what I mean?
Oh
But
yeah.
those earlier records, I'm not bummed about those records or anything like that. But I just feel like when I play them live, I play those songs so much differently now.
Sure.
They just feel. I try not to stray too far away from it, but
Right.
they have the essence. But they just feel better. I play a lot more swing, and thank you for noticing that. There's much more of a swing to the way I naturally play, and I was being told to just really lock in with that click and not move, not budge, and
Yeah.
I don't like the way that feels a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing I've noticed that really brings a unique sense to your playing is you like to, especially on the older records, go from, the hi-hat to the ride maybe every line or two, maybe in the middle of a chorus, or the solo. Was that something that just naturally came to you, or did you just like, this feels thicker here, it feels a little lighter here? Any thought behind that, or is that just something you just
Some
naturally did?
no, sometimes I do both. Really, I use the hi hat and the snare at the same time, and I got that from watching a jazz drummer, but I put it in a rock context. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I just like the way that I think the time that it takes you to get from one thing to the other slows it down a millisecond and gives it a feel. Actually, spinning sticks slows you down a slight bit. So some of those, it's funny is sometimes I'll be recording and I'll like spin something. And we're like, why are you doing that? You're recording. Like, you're not playing for anybody. I'm like, but it's a sense of time. I like put it into the time a lot. So I
Interesting.
try. Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Well, Ricky, you are going to have to come back when that book comes out, because I got a sense we got a lot more to talk with you about. So please, in a couple of months, come on back and we'll read the book and we'll talk about it. But
Sounds good. Let's do it.
this
Yeah, I'm
was
looking forward to it.
this was fantastic. Rikki Rockett, Rocket Mafia. We'll be watching. Thank you so much,
All right. Thank you. Take care.
buddy. What's a ghost note?
Okay. Yes, we have to explain this to non musicians, mostly non drummers. But so a ghost note is a quieter note than the main note. So if you're playing, the snare is usually on 2 and 4. You have little tiny, smaller, quieter notes in between that. Those are ghost notes.
But okay, let me ask a little bit more technical question. If I'm playing an eighth note or a fourth note, because remember, I had like 7 years of piano before my parents realized that, these digits were more for manipulating cards for magic tricks than musical instruments. Um, how is that different than an eighth note or a quarter note or even a 16th note where you're ba, 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 ba. Where does it fit in the scheme of a regular melody?
Well, it varies by song, and there's
Okay.
really no defined answer. But if you're going dot 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 like that, you're typically doing it at one volume. Well, with the ghost notes, they're quieter volume.
Okay.
So I do that a lot too when I'm practicing. I just, they kind of fill in the space.
Yeah.
So you're not just doing 1, 2, 3, 4, a steady beat like he talked about in the interview. You're filling that in with little bitty notes that kind of just enhance the song. Doesn't overpower the song. I mean, if you're going dot 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 dot, that might overpower the song depending on the
Sure.
feel and who you're working with. But those little ghost notes can really bring out the song, and he's really famous for that. And I wasn't just telling him that. I really do believe he doesn't get enough credit in the drumming world for what he has done for that stuff.
Well,
And
it's
really cool.
I think it's a mechanism or a symptom of what Poison is, which is this glam metal, hair metal music that has some really good songs. I mean, Every Rose Has Its Thorn is one of the biggest ballads in American music.
Right.
But one of the biggest ballads. But I still think on the whole, they're seen as a fun party band. And if that's your image, not just across Poison, but across other things. And he kind of touched on this with the Partridges too, right?
Mhm.
If you're seen as somewhat gimmicky, your musical the actual musical skill and the quality of what you're producing is sometimes overlooked. A lot of times
Right.
overlooked. So I think I think you've kind of hit on something that kind of ties it back to the very beginning of this interview, which is when you do something and you're known as that, sometimes it's tougher to look a little bit deeper. But I do think he appreciated your intelligent drummer-based questions, where I almost, got up and went on a break and just let the two of you go at it.
Well, it's like you sitting down with someone who's political. You can't help but to ask something up
Right.
their alley. And
Or
being a drummer
a country
myself,
star, yeah,
right? Being a drummer myself, I've had questions, and I'm like, if I ever get to ask him, I want to, something that people don't typically ask. And one thing that you may not know that Poison fans, of course, know, they were big on being out there and doing their own guerrilla style marketing. They would go make flyers, and they would go in Hollywood and just post them everywhere, meet everybody, give them flyers, and that is how they would sell out the whiskey, in the 80s. And they got their deal because they weren't just, sure, they're a party band, but what band isn't or wasn't, they actually put in all of the work and they created, if I remember correctly, they created like their own staging, their lighting rigs, all of that, just to put on the show that they wanted to put on. And you got to commend a band for that. I mean, you don't hear of that these days because of technology, but back in the 80s, when word of mouth was really the best way to do it, and the Sunset Strip was hopping, if I could ever go back in time, that would be an era I would visit. I would love to visit the Sunset Strip in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I think we might get to do that with his book. We want to have him back when he has the book on that talks about that time period. But for now, I really enjoyed this conversation with Rikki. For the Music Universe, I'm Matt.
And I'm Buddy. Thanks for listening and watching. Be sure to check us out at themusicuniverse.com, and like, subscribe, and share on socials at The Music Uni. And you can follow us at tmupod.com as well. Take care.